different angle tonight, I guess. Juggling cameras to try to make this all work together. Yeah, I was doing some recording. I need the tripod because I can't use this webcam to do a recording on my desktop. Well, I might be able to try that. The way I usually do it is I go into camera settings and do a direct recording from the camera settings. But it doesn't want to do that now because camera settings makes my computer freeze. So, yeah, doing some recordings this afternoon. Went out to see the movie this afternoon. Tried to do some errands out and about today, but that was another one of those, nothing worked out quite right the way I would have preferred it to work today. So it is what it is. That's okay. I was looking for a few things to try to take care of some stuff. I think I'm going to spend tomorrow doing some more recording and editing and getting ready to post. And then working on a paper bead making machine made out of paper. That's the big one. And that shouldn't take too long. I can use a X-Acto knife and cut some strips of paper, roll them up, form the shapes I need. I think I've got a little bit of glue. If I don't, I can grab a bottle for a couple bucks at the dollar store or something like that. So it shouldn't be super hard to do. I very nearly didn't come back tonight. I went to see the movie Captain Marvel. And I tried to do it earlier in the day, but the earliest I could get in to see it was the earliest I could see it was a show starting at 6:45. And it's like, well, that's the start time, 15-minute filler at the beginning. So starts at 7, ran till about 9. And the only showing of Alita Battle Angel in that theater was starting at 9:45. So I very nearly, like I got out of the theater, end of credits ended. If I had stopped in at the bathroom to use the bathroom there, it would have been about 9:20 by the time that I could have gone into another movie, and that's just enough lead up time for 20 minutes before the start of a movie. I could have gone into Alita Battle Angel. But I got to thinking, like, I don't get any economic benefit from going immediately to see it. I mean, it'll be there on Monday or Tuesday. And if I go at like noon or 1 in the afternoon, it's going to cost me $3 less. So I may just do that. But yeah, I very nearly, like, I could spend the whole night just watching interesting movies. But I got things I need to do. So I didn't do that. I did come back here and did some quick recording of an intro to something. And then juggled the cameras. So you're in a different location tonight. You're on top of the monitor instead of on the tripod over here. Which is actually, it makes it, this is better for sort of eye contact. It's not quite eye contact, but close enough. Yeah, I was surprised that Captain Marvel's been open for I want to say, like, I think Captain Marvel opened in the middle of the month and we're here at the end, and the theater was still packed. I think only some of the front row was empty. And I had the last seat in everything past the first row. There was like one seat left. in the back row of the theater that I was in, and that's for six. Well, that might have been partly my choosing for time. I tried to go earlier. I got there around like 4:50 or something like that in the afternoon, and they're like, "Oh, well, yeah, you can see that movie." And it's like, but the next showing is 6:45. I'm like, so it's after everybody got out of work on a Friday night. So that may have played a part of it. I imagine if I had gone, earlier in the day, it would have been quieter, or if I'd gone on a weekday, that would have been easier. Oh, and heads up to the guy in the seats next to me. Don't turn on your cell phone in the middle of the movie to send a text message, because hey, like, if you really need to send a text message, that's cool. I'm fine with that. Dial down the brightness on your phone so that it doesn't illuminate all the walls and every face in the theater. It's blinding. It's like somebody flips on a light switch when you've been sitting in the dark for an hour. It's like, don't do that. And if you're going to do that, don't do it for 3 minutes straight so that it's just this consistent blaring foghorn of a light off to the side. Yeah. So I actually turned to him and go, really, dude? Really? Right now? It's not appropriate. But yeah, so I'm still kind of ruminating over what I think of the movie. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to. It's one I'll have to actually process in my head, where I can't just say like, "Woo, that was a fun ride," or "Oh, that was deeply profound." It's like it's somewhere in the middle, and I'm not sure where in the middle it was. So I have to really set some time to think about it a bit. Yeah, I mean, I think that I have a rough design for the paper project for the Instructables competition in my head. I mean, it really doesn't have to be anything spectacular. And there's a part of me that really likes the idea of just doing this, like, no tools, you just start with paper, and you make a tool that makes it possible for you to do more things with paper. And I kind of like that idea, but I think it might be lost on the contest if I do it that way. So I may just pull out the X-Acto knife and make the components and then play with it from there. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm aware of the fact that like my instinct is to get it right the first time out. There's absolutely no reason why I can't just pull out a box cutter, cut up all the pieces I need to be in the right place, put it all together, enter it into the contest, and then a month down the road, make a improved 2.0 version that's completely from scratch, made out of paper. And like one of the things I'm thinking of right now is like, I like the idea that it's a tool with nothing but paper and glue, but nothing but paper to make it do what you want it to do, and it does something useful. But one of the things is like I'm using the paper sticks that Q-tips or lollipops come on as part of the device that I'm working on as like axles. And there's a part of me that's like, that's all right. I'll let myself get away with it once. But I kind of want to make something that makes it possible for me to make paper sticks like that. Because those would be really useful. Like right now, the thing I'm playing around with making is going to be something that you can make beads and game pieces and decorative paper pieces and maybe occasionally some wheels, pulleys, maybe eventually something like gears. You can do some paper quilling and a few other things with it. But if I work with it just right, I might be able to convince it to make a paper stick. And if I can do that, it actually forwards my ability to make mechanisms like gears and pulleys better when I can make those axles out of paper. But not that they need to be made out of paper. I could go get a steel nail and use that. But that's not the point. That's not the point. Like there is sort of a fun challenge, and just seeing, like, given nothing but paper and a little bit of adhesive like Elmer's glue, can I make things that do things that are amazing? Can I do something really interesting and surprising with them? So, like, I would be curious to see if I could do, like, could I do a rope with paper? Could I do a like a treadle where it turns a big paper wheel that turns a smaller paper wheel that turns an axle? If I can do a treadle, can I do a lathe? Can I do, like, what kinds of weird, interesting things could I do with just paper? Like, how far can I push that medium? Now, maybe I'll have to wax the axles so that they don't friction fire. Like if you do a treadle powered something made entirely out of paper and the axles aren't lubricated in some way, they're going to rub enough that you might start a fire, which could be fun, but not the goal. So I kind of want to play with, like, I'll go for the simple, what can I make the first time out? I'm not very good at rough drafting a thing, like a proof of concept object with the idea that I can make it better later. I always want to make it right the first time out. I think that's just part of my upbringing, is anything worth doing is worth doing right the first time. I got told that so many times, and it was basically the message I got told every time somebody thought I hadn't done the job well. And if it's the first time you've ever done a job, I heard it. So it's always in my mind that, like, I could do this better. Don't do a half-assed job of this right now. But it's not. It's like learning to do it. It's trying it out first and knowing that you can improve it later. I think it's a message that I never got, I never internalized, and now it's something that trips me up a lot, is do it right or don't do it. And I feel like there should be a message in there also, like, you can do it wrong too. It's a way to get started. So I need to keep that in mind. So I'll do a rough round first and maybe improve later. Yeah, so I saw the movie today. I went and ran a bunch of errands today, or tried to run a bunch of errands, and like nobody had anything that I needed to do what I was looking for. And so I really don't want to spend 2 hours going down to my storage unit, getting what I need, and coming back here. It's going to be, that might actually end up being like 3 hours worth of time. And it feels like, I don't know, like, does it feel weirdly like different to other people here right now? Because, like, I feel like 3 hours is the entire day right now. Like when something comes up and it's like, it's 3 hours of effort to do this thing, I feel like, well, that was my whole day. And I'm like, 3 hours isn't my whole day. Like, half the nights this week I've got less than 7 hours of sleep. There are 24 hours in a day. Get 7 hours or less per day sleep. You get 17 hours for the rest of your day. How is 3 hours chewing up the rest of the day? I don't understand it. It feels like 3 hours hits and then it's like midnight, and it's like, well, I should really get ready to go to bed if I want to get up and do something at a reasonable time tomorrow. Like, I don't understand where time is going. I feel like it's just not there anymore. I don't know what happened to it. I got to figure that out. Get myself back on some kind of sensible schedule. But I think also part of it is it's just like when I'm trying to do something, my efforts feel so scattered that can't seem to reasonably achieve anything in a reasonable amount of time. And I also feel like to a certain degree that stress of things makes it easier for me to get distracted and lose sense of little chunks of time, like a half an hour to 45 minutes here or there. I live in New England, so my storage unit, I lived in Manchester 2 years ago before losing the housing situation I was in. And the closest storage unit that I could get for a reasonable price of the size I needed to put my entire life in. Because at the time, I had been living in a place for 8 years, and the vast majority of things in that place, like everything in the house, was mine, or something somebody left behind and I inherited. And so, like, there was all of that stuff that was mine, and then there was the fact that at the exact same time, my mom was moving from the house I grew up in, that I went to high school while we lived in. We lived in a couple houses while I was younger, but the house that I lived in the majority of my high school and college years, she was moving from there to a condo complex for people over a certain age. And so she was downsizing and she was getting rid of so much of everything. And of those few things that were up in the attic that were mine, and things of my childhood and some of my old things that were still in her possession, I had to go get those too. And so making that all happen, the closest place I could find that had a 10 by 10 by 10 storage unit for under $120 a month was about 30 minutes down the road. And where I am now is about 30 minutes up the road from where I was. And so the conjoined time is now about an hour to get down there. It's probably about a half an hour to do anything I want to get done there. And then, an hour to get back here for doing that. And that's also highly dependent on time of day. Most of the roads that get there are highly trafficked roads during anywhere between 4:30 p.m. to 6:45 p.m. They're just traffic jams. And so that can easily add 45 minutes to a drive. And if I did it at like 10:30 in the morning, I'd probably just make it to a degree where I wouldn't hit lunchtime traffic around noon. But yeah, there's a town up north of here. I've driven up to visit family of my brother-in-law when they lived up there for a while. Drove through this area, and like you pass through these little towns, and there's a bowling alley, there's a bar, a liquor store, and then like a grocery store, and then like That's the center of town, and there are like 5 houses on either side of that, about 4 or 5 miles apart each. And you go a little further up the road, and it repeats. You got the bowling alley and the liquor store, maybe not the bar, but and you go up the road a little bit further, and then there's like the grocery store, the liquor store, and then nothing else. And then you go a little further up the road, and you're now like fully in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. You're just up in the mountains, and you pass this sign that says scuba school. And I'm like, what? Like, we're nowhere near water. We're in the middle of the mountains. What? Like, scuba? Like, the tank, the mask, the wetsuit, the flippers, scuba? In the mountains with no water? What the heck? I always thought it was hilarious. And it's like, I talked with somebody who passed through the area at one point, and he goes, "Oh, yeah, I totally know what you're talking about. There's a reason." I'm like, I don't want to know the reason. It's an awesome anecdotal story that doesn't need to be explained. Don't ruin it for me. It is my storage unit is a climate controlled, but storage isn't cheap up here. A 10 by 10, it's internal building, it's inside, it's climate controlled, and it's like the 4th floor of the building. I've had 5 by 5 outdoor climate controlled storage units before at a facility, and 2 5 by 5s was costing me, I think it was running me upwards of about $103 a month. And my stuff was in there, and they were close enough to the road that you got a lot of road dirt in there. And I had stuff in there for years, and it was just like, I had things get ruined just by how bad it got in there. And like that's pretty much the going rate in a lot of places around here. A 5 by 5 was, I think it was going about $48 a month by the time I finished. And I had 2 of them. So it was a 5 by 10, essentially. Now, if I'd gotten them, consolidated them into one 5 by 10 unit, I'd have been paying probably about $112. And that's, I mean, I just got to the point looking at some of my stuff in storage where I'm like, none of this is worth 2 years of $110 a month. So I got rid of that one. But while I've been traveling, a lot of my stuff has been in storage, and I do want to go through and thin some of it out. I've got a pretty substantial collection of old VHS Japanese animation. So I've got some anime on VHS. Some of them are really neat. I enjoyed a lot of them. I got pretty lucky. I got a couple collections off of eBay years ago that is just unfathomably good deals at the time. And I have a small collection of games, and I had a collection of superhero trading cards for a while. I think I still have some, and I had a collection of role-playing games, tabletop role-playing games, and many of them got damaged, and so I had to get rid of those. But I have subsequently tried to rebuild some of that collection. I do miss a lot of my 2nd edition AD&D stuff. I had a whole big collection of Dark Sun role-playing game stuff. It's one of my favorite settings. And each and every one of those things is at least $60 to try to replace through Amazon. And I had probably 30 or 40 of them. and they're all just ruined. And so I got rid of those at one point. And I have a couple other things that I would love to get to replace and get back, but and I believe Dark Sun they never modernized for the newer Dungeons and Dragons systems. If they made a 3.5 or a what's the new one? I think they're on 5th edition. If they had one of those for Dark Sun, I would be on that, but I don't think they do. And I think the 2nd edition AD&D was the last time they did that. And I had a collection of the Alternity stuff. It's the last game that TSR produced that wasn't D&D before Wizards of the Coast bought them out. And it was a science fiction, D20 based role-playing tabletop game. And they did a couple of settings for it. They did a Dark Matter, which was a sort of a X-Files kind of setting. And they did a space setting that was Star Drive, I think it was, or something like that. And they did a conversion for StarCraft. StarCraft had an expansion for the TSR's Alternity to be a tabletop role-playing game. And I had a copy of that. That got damaged. I have subsequently purchased a backup copy. So I do have that again. Yay! So StarCraft actually has a tabletop role-playing game that you can play with friends. But they also had... There were a couple other things in that system that I thought were really kind of neat. They had a couple games that you could play that were superhero themed. And there was another game that I was really, really a big fan of. I saw the material for this and I thought it was the best thing ever. It was a superhero playing game. It wasn't Alternity, it was Aberrant. And it was part of a trilogy. They had a pulp adventure series of games, followed by the Aberrant, which was a superhero themed setting. And then there was, I think it was called Trinity, which was a future science fiction setting where there are dangerous mutant populations and psychic power organizations and some big conflict between the groups, something like that. I never got to the future one and I didn't play the pulp one, but the Aberrant setting was this is an innovative look at superhero gaming. I really got into that. I still have a copy of the Firefly role-playing game. One of them. I think they came out with a couple different games like that over the years. I want badly the Babylon 5 role-playing game, but that's expensive and it's hard to find a copy somewhere. I wouldn't mind the Cyberpunk 2025, was it? And let's see. I used to have a copy of Big Eye Small Mouth, and I had a couple of games that were built to play in that setting. Yeah, I lost a lot of gaming stuff when the storage units I had that were outside storage units, they got a lot of condensation inside them. And so a lot of paper materials got really badly damaged. And so I lost some books, and I lost a lot of gaming stuff. I think somewhere I even have, I might still have the box of, I can't remember the name of the game. There used to be, you'd open those packs of cards, but the cards had pop-up pirate ships that you could play battles against people with. And it was sort of like miniature combat pirate game on a tabletop. But all the ships were pop-outs of cards. And they made a Flash Gordon Adventures Through the Solar System science fiction style game like that. And so you have all these little ray gun rocket ships, and it's like the Jovian forces and the Earth forces, Mars and Venus, and there are different armies and there are different alliances between them and different ships that have different capabilities. And I thought this was the coolest idea ever. I guess nothing ever came of this series of games, but I think somewhere I still have them. And I mean, I have some very unusual old games, and I kind of love some of the weird old stuff. Like, I have somewhere, I have a few games, and I kind of like the same in my video games. I like a series of, I played the old Pool of Radiance for PCs, and I have, like, for the Nintendo, I played the Dragon Warrior, or Dragon Quest, as it was renamed. I had the original Final Fantasy. I loaned that to somebody, never got it back, so that's annoying. But Dragon Warrior, I like Dragon Warrior better than Final Fantasy anyway. But like I played Escape Velocity Nova and its two predecessors, Escape Velocity Overdrive and Escape Velocity, from Ambrosia Software for Macintosh. They did port it over to the PC, but some of the features were lost. So part of the appeal of those games to me were that people could do total conversions. And as far as I know, that company doesn't exist anymore. All attempts to contact them, nothing. It's been years since they've updated anything. It's sort of like it's a ghost town wandering into their web servers anymore. Nothing's happening on them anymore, which is unfortunate. I'd still play that game if I could. I don't know if I can even buy it. I mean, it's still listed up there, and I could potentially go buy a copy of it, but I don't know if there's anybody on the other end of those transactions anymore. And I don't know if I would try to send a payment for $35 for a full copy of this game and then not be able to play it because I don't get sent the key code for how to play the game without, it's one of those, you can play a demo version for about 30 days, and after 30 days, it starts to become unplayable unless you enter a code that says this is a registered copy. I don't know if I could ever do that. I loved that game, and I would play it all over again, over and over and over again if I could. There are a bunch of things like that. The board games and the computer games. I love the old classics, and to a certain degree, like the collection of anime tapes that I have. There are a whole bunch of old Japanese animations that, like, some of them I don't think they ever bothered to port over to DVD. And they're kind of fun to revisit. Like, I know it's easier to find anime now, but I also feel like it's lacking some of that substance that, like, when we got anime when I was younger, when it got over here, it had gone through a filter process. Like, the dross had been scraped off, and only the stuff that had a chance of making it made it over here. And so, like, we had some really, like, Sol Bianca, what is it, Dragon Slayers, or just Slayers. That's what that was. Dragon Half, which was hilarious, and we only got one copy. We only got the first part of Dragon Half. I guess in Japan they produced a second round, but it's sort of like a 3-episode each, and we only got one of those sets, and then they discontinued the series, which that was wrong. That was awesome. But yeah, so some of the movies, some of my books, some of my games, some of my computer games, I'm on a kind of a nostalgia trip for some of it if I could get it. Yeah, there are some emulators out there that I've heard about. I don't know how good they are, and I kind of wonder if I went out and built myself a arcade or a gaming system for the Raspberry Pi, if I could find Raspberry Pi emulator versions of some of those old games. And I would love to pull up like Pool of Radiance or some of those games again and just do a playthrough. Like it would be that if I could get that on a computer, that I have a device that I could hook up to a TV and an external gaming unit. So like if I have a PlayStation 1 or an NES Nintendo playing system, I could hook up that and I would do live playthroughs of that stuff. No problem. Some of the more modern stuff, like I'm curious enough about Overwatch, mainly because I like the stories and the character designs. I don't know that the gameplay appeals to me a lot, but I'd play Overwatch just for the fun of playing with some people I know. I would potentially do. I don't know what else I would play. Like I might do a Last of Us game. There was one coming out recently that I was very interested in. I'm trying to remember what it was. It's like a big name one that I'm like, ooh, I could kind of get into that. It's not like Mortal Kombat. I'm not a Mortal Kombat. Like, to me, the appeal of that was like the same reason Howard Stern became popular, is just how shocking can this thing be? And that's I played the original Mortal Kombats in arcades when I was younger. I was like, it's not like a big thing on my list. What was the other one that was coming out recently that had my attention? I was sort of like, ooh, I might get a game system just to play that. I can't remember what it was. Oh man, you're a gamer. What are some of the big games coming out soon that are catching people's attention? Like I can't remember. Like it's only occasionally that a game comes along where I go, I could look into that, but there's not a lot there. And the other trick to doing any live gaming stuff is Nintendo is notoriously stingy on what it lets people do. And I had this brief idea for a little while of using some of the features in some video editing software to make custom icons and custom maps and do a screenshot of any Nintendo game I'm playing and then change the characters and change the map so that the custom character icon tracks where the original character moved, but overlays an image on it that hides what it is and rename it. So in this case, like if you were to do Super Mario 3, like Nintendo would just slap your channel down so hard for using its stuff in a Let's Play. But if you replaced the Mario character with, say, a Green Army Man figure and replace the map with barbed wire and shipping crates and stuff like that, and just did the whole game that way. Instead of a fire flower, you find a machine gun, and you pick that up, and now you can fire weapons. Like, playing a game like that, like, you're not playing their game, but the gameplay is on that system. And so it's sort of like, you might be able to make that happen. It'd be a lot of work to make it happen. Now, for most of what I was thinking, Far Cry 1 through 5 and Grand Theft Auto. I haven't played a Grand Theft Auto ever. I've heard people talk about Far Cry, but I don't even know what that one is. Yeah, I like a role play almost, or very story driven games. I could do an open world game, but most of the open world games that are out there right now are like shoot everybody else kinds of games, and I'm like, I struggle with those kinds of games because I'm not really into the sowing death and destruction gameplay style. I like building things, but I didn't get into Minecraft because it was just sort of like, this is comically dorky. This is just digital Legos. And what was it? There legitimately was one out there that had me kind of fascinated. I can't remember. Let's see, games coming out. I think it was supposed to be coming out this year. Coming out 2019. No. What? How is Battletoads coming out in 2019? Okay, 50 most anticipated games of 2019. I'm kind of curious about this because, like, a lot of this is going to be not my thing. Okay, so it says, well, I can read some of these off. Age of Wonder. Age of Wonder's Planetfall. Ancestors, The Humankind Odyssey. Animal Crossing. Anthem, that sounds familiar, but I don't know it. Ape Out. Atomic Heart. Babylon's Fall. Biomutant, Bloodstained, Code Vein, Conan Unconquered, Control, Crackdown. Oh, Cyberpunk 2077 or 2075 or whatever the new Cyberpunk game. I would play that one. Days Gone. I don't know anything about that. Devil May Cry 5. The Division. I'd play Portal too if I could play Portal, I imagine. Far Cry New Dawn. Is that the one with it's the post-apocalypse thingy? Yeah. I would almost rather do a live-action role-play post-apocalyptic game with friends. Because we're less likely to be like spamming buttons of murdering each other. I like a little more diplomacy in my games and plotting and strategy rather than just mass murder. Journey to the Savage Planet, Jump Force, Kingdom Hearts, Left Alive, Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order. Mech Warrior Mercenaries. Metro Exodus, Mortal Kombat 11. Ori and the Will of the Wisps. That looks kind of cute. The Outer Worlds seems maybe interesting. It's a first-person RPG set in space. The Pathless. PlanetSide, Psychonauts, Rage 2, Resident Evil 2, Sable. That art style looks totally unique. Actually, I can see if I can. So let's see if I can pull this up. Move the camera. Don't get too dizzy here. Okay, so Sable. I don't know if you can see that or not. That art style right there looks like a very unique gameplay. So let's see. Did I totally break the camera for the rest of the night? Possibly. So let's see. Okay. Yeah. I mean, they're. No, 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 stop. Good Lord, I just cracked open like 5 different windows. How did it? Stop, stop, stop. Oh my goodness, that is a mess of just, how did that happen? I don't know. Oh my God. Panic attack inducing, holy crap. That was a mess. Let's try not to ever do that again if we can help it. Okay, Sea of Solitude. Sekiro, Shenmue, I can't even pronounce that. Skull and Bones. Spelunky 2, don't know that one. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah, for a while I was looking at the possibility, is Star Wars Galaxies still existing? That was a game I thought about for a little while. I'm a big Star Wars fan. And then there was also a superhero, something like that, where like they were both trying to do their own equivalent of World of Warcraft, but in different settings. So they had like the Star Wars Galaxy was you build a character and you walk around in this large multiplayer online role-playing game. And then like City of Heroes or something was the other one. Okay. And I thought both those sounded really interesting, but I also thought they both sounded like something that would eat up years of my life and I would never get those years back. So I was a little careful about that. What? That's weird. In the 50 most anticipated games of 2019, 2 of the games that I would have thought would have been in there aren't. I would have thought Cyberpunk would be in there and The Last of Us 2 would be in there, but they're not. It's like, I don't know, but those 2, if they were on the same, if I could get Overwatch, The Last of Us 2, and Cyberpunk all on one playing system, that's all I would need. I don't think I would play anything else ever. Like, what else would I need? Oh, I'm starting to bog down my processor again. Gotta be careful here. Yeah, a lot of these sites are ad dense, and these motion ads chew up the processor as I'm trying to scan through some of this stuff. Crackdown? I don't know anything about that game. Days Gone. I have heard a little bit about that, I think. Dead or Alive? Wasn't that a volleyball game? Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Devil May Cry. Doom Eternal. Are they Fire Emblem 3 Heroes? Don't know that one. Gear 5. Gears of War. I've heard a little bit about that. Harry Potter Wizards Unite. I've never heard of that. Who is writing these lists of anticipated games of 2019? Kingdom Hearts 3. I've never played any of the Kingdom Hearts stuff. Luigi's Mansion. Mortal Kombat. Dude, if you don't just move this thing and work, I'm going to leave this website. If you're going to bog it down that much, it's not worth my time to look at your content. Ori and the Will of the Wisps pops up again. Art style's cute for that one, but I don't know that I know anything about it. Psychonauts, I don't know anything about. 1, 2, 3. Rage 2. I don't see. I'm maybe out of the loop on some of the gamer lingo. Is the game actually called Rage, or is it Rage Against something or other? And I don't know what the rest of the implied title is. A lot of these seem like just very similar games. They're just reskins of the same kind of game. And maybe I'm being a bit of a snob here, because like many of the games I played, like Crash Bandicoot and Mario, they were very similar games. They're just like Mega Man and Castlevania and things like that. They were all just a different story, a different look, and a slightly different theme, but they all played the exact same way. The side scroller game was the platformer, and the side scrollers were just the games we played. But I feel like there's just like, since the advent of what was it, Tomb Raider, like these first-person combat shooter style games, like they are the thing that fills up the entirety of the market right now, and they don't hold any appeal or draw to me. Beyond 2019, Beyond Good and Evil 2. I don't understand that. Space adventure, I guess? I don't know. Seems weird. Beyond 2019. Oh, okay. So these are titles that are coming out past 2019. Control. Beyond 2019 is a good name for a game. Okay, so Cyberpunk 2077 is not listed for this year, but the coming year, I guess. Death Stranding, don't know that. Sounds generic, post-apocalyptic, kill each other kinds of games. Dying Light, don't know it. Ghosts of Tsushima. Oh, Halo Infinite, Elder Scrolls. I have a friend who plays that. Last of Us 2, I guess, isn't 2019 anymore either, huh? We can do this. Stop choking up with stupid ads. All right, well, I'm done with this website if it's going to behave that way. Starfield. 1, 2. Okay. Nioh 2. NIOH 2. I don't even know what that even says. Anyway, not going to continue on this website anymore. Yeah, I know. Like some of the games that are coming out, meh. Yeah, I mean, I know I played some Facebook games when they first introduced some of those games, and I got into like some silly little ones where like you build a little empire for your monsters in a backyard, and you build junk machines that launch uh, like gobs of goo at somebody else or something like that. I enjoyed like the building part of that, but as soon as you got people would come on there and purchase all the features they need to upgrade to a level that you just can't get to, and then just spam and wipe out everybody on the board, like it lost all the appeal for me. And there are so many of those types of games now where it's just sort of like the goal is to beat somebody else up. Like some other player, you just go on there and like your goal, the thing that is there for you to achieve that afternoon of gameplay is to beat up as many other people who are also playing. Like, and like, I would play. What is the big one? Like the one with all the dancing characters that everybody does. I sound like an old man. So, the one that's it's now being supplanted by a knockoff. I consider it a knockoff. Fortnite. There you go. Fortnite. I would potentially play a Fortnite just to be a pacifist. See how far I can make it in each game without hurting or attacking anybody else. I would do that just to see if I could do that. But, I mean, it seems to me a lot of these games are just like, come home and beat up as many people as you can online. I have zero interest in that. Give me a good story where that's the result of some of the action in the story. Give me a film noir style detective game where everybody's out playing against each other and gotta rough up the neighboring gangs and go and uncover some things and fight against the feds. I would play that game in a heartbeat because it has story. I think I lost you. Looks like you are still replying. It looks like I lost somebody. My viewer count is 0 now. So what is this language that you want to turn off? Is it just so that nobody talks to you? You might, well, what? Like, AI opponents don't bother me. I could play a game where I fight AI. Like, that's not a problem. My concern isn't so much like computer-generated monsters. Like, I'm okay with some of that. But it's the fierce competitiveness and the drive to wipe each other off the map between players. I just get bored with. Like, it just holds no appeal for me. Especially in a game where there's a construction element where you spend your time building something, either a character or a city or a spaceship, only to have somebody else come along and just wipe you off the map. Oh, yeah, the screaming, ranting little punks that think it's, all grown up to talk dirty. Although, I have enjoyed watching some people do impressions of celebrities, like an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression or a oh, okay. Um, like the AI characters say, like, are abusive, vocally abusive to you. I, I think it would be fun to put a patch into a game where like everything abusive that's said are end up being turned into like cutesy, silly phrases. That would be hilarious. But yeah, I mean, like I was saying, like, yeah, I would, I would love, I would love a like. I don't mind a game where you have to fight in some points to survive and make it through the next level. That's okay. Um, my struggle with those types of games is there's always some 15, 12 to 15-year-old kid who does nothing else their entire time, has been training to be able to hit those buttons in the right sequence at the right time in the right way to get all the optimal reaction times to all the events, so that when they are there and they are maladjusted in whatever degree that an interaction and adventure with the game that I'm playing and explore the world, because I love good world building. I like good character development. And I feel like there's a thing we used to have an issue with on tabletop role-playing games. So when I was younger and we'd play tabletop role-playing games, you'd sit around a table with a bunch of other friends. You'd have your paper chart with your on it. And if you're with a group of friends, you built a character with a backstory, and their backstory tells you a little more about the world that you're playing in and yourself as the character, and sets up how you're going to interact with the challenges ahead of you. That was my jam. And those types of games I loved. I loved playing those games because it's storytelling. It's shared storytelling. So I think we lost you again. No. But like with tabletop role-playing games, there was a class of player that nobody liked. They happen every now and then. If you're good at picking your group, it wasn't an issue. Are we still running? Yeah, I'm still going. But in tabletop role-playing games, we had, yeah, I'm seeing 0 viewers right now. So I think we lost you. But I saw 2 for a minute. And I wonder if that was trying to recycle like that. I wonder if they were both you for a minute and that caused a collapse. Yeah, I don't know what's doing that. Looks like it's all running smoothly on my end. But I will finish up here for the evening soon here. I was just basically stating that with tabletop role-playing games, we used to get a type of player that their goal was to get the most powerful player character with the most weapons, and not once did they develop any character story or care about the greater world out there. It was how to give it the most gold, most experience points, and up their levels of most powerful attack. And They're boring people to play with. And because their main goal was to become the most powerful player at the table, they would interfere with story development and character play. And it was just like, this isn't a fun game playing with you anymore. And I feel like the online gaming community has become flush with that kind of player. And I don't find them fun to play with. And it's like, if I ever end up getting a system that can play some of these games, it's part of the reason why I don't want to play Overwatch unless I can set up a group of only my friends and we goof around with it and play silly things with it. But even then, the game as it's designed, excuse me. The game as it's designed is meant to be player versus player. And it's meant to be kill them as many times as you can, as fast as you can, as hard as you can. There are little bits of story elements in there, like the reason you're killing these other people is to protect the cargo. And that's like it. I love the world they built around the characters and the concept of Overwatch, but it doesn't show up in gameplay. And so I have less interest in those games. But like The Last of Us, all story. I love that. There is a player versus player aspect that you can play in that game. I don't know if I'd be up for that. I would rather do the playthrough of the story elements over and over again and just enjoy the story. I feel like, a lot of that is just down to like a preference for tell me a good story and let me participate in it. And I mean, I don't necessarily understand the appeal of the free-for-all combat games. It's just not my style. But if there's a way to play it like a troll, I might go for it. So like the don't kill anybody. Just go through there. And like if there's an even more fun way to do it, where you can leave a potted plant for somebody else to find, that would be hilarious. I would love a game where everybody's trying to kill each other and you sneak up and leave potted plants for them all. That I would do that all day. I'd probably get sick of it real quick unless there was some like world development storytelling to go. But I could have fun for an afternoon or two doing that. And like I just feel like so many of the games out there are built to be that kind of game. Some of them make a setting with a story to it that's fun to explore, but it's still just an arena for shooting each other. And I'm hoping that's a trend that changes, that a different type of game is just around the corner and we're going to see more of it, but I don't know. And I feel like I'm like an old, whiny, get off my lawn kind of old man complaining about that. Yeah, I mean there's an aspect of collecting things that could be fun, I suppose. But I mean, like, why am I collecting it? Like, what's my motivation? What exploration or more information about the world and my character do I get from doing that? Now, I have thought about, like, there are potential ways where I could enjoy playing Overwatch, and that would be something like if I created a character in my own head that I role play in this game. So, like, because you can switch, early on the game of Overwatch, there was the ability in the middle of a game to switch from one character to another. Now, in my mind, I could have a lot of fun by creating a character in my head that's a shapeshifter, that has the ability to copy other people's abilities. And so I would make this role play to do, and I would create a fake accent or something like that and pretend to be this character, pretending to be other characters, and interact with other people on the playing field. I think that's the only way I could enjoy playing that game, the way it's set up right now. If it were set up against an AI opponent, say like Omnic Raptors, just running through an entire city, and like there's the AI computer, the Omnic, in charge of them all, and you have to get through them, prevent them from causing certain damage, and pick off the hive mind. I would play that with a group of friends. Like, absolutely, I would play that. As far as I know, that's not an option. Although they have added some new features that I'm not as familiar with. I think there is a play versus AI mode somewhere. So I'm kind of curious to look at it. But, yeah, and like The Last of Us isn't a multiplayer unless you go into multiplayer mode, and then it's just a team versus team slaughter each other situation. At least that's what I saw. Cyberpunk might, it's enough role play in a setting that I'm curious about. I don't know if I would do okay in WoW. I feel like I could probably enjoy that setting a little more, and the character design and all that stuff. There's still some of that people, sniping each other kind of garbage that happens, and like just trash talking and picking off the newbies. And I think there's the other end of that spectrum where like I could enjoy a game every now and then, but I feel like there's the risk of getting too caught up in some of that, where I get caught in the pattern of like every weeknight I spend 3 hours doing this game with a group of friends online. And yeah, it might be fun for a little while, but I feel like by the end of 3 years, I'm going to stop and go like 3 hours a night, 365 days a year, 3 years. I literally have wasted millions of hours. I could have done so much more. Like, I could have made another flight to Hawaii. I could have done this. I could have done that. And instead, all I've got is experience points on a virtual character on a screen. And I don't want to be in that point someday. Like, some level of story, but like a casual story. Like, achievable goals where like I don't even mind like 12 hours of gameplay. Make it like a mini series that I can enjoy. But I want to feel like I've achieved something. There's an end goal. I've experienced this story in the world in a way that's important to me, and then I don't have to keep playing for these microtransactions that increase over time. And I think there's a sweet spot somewhere in there for me for gaming, and I don't know that a lot of the gaming market out there is set up for that. A lot of them are built as like the subscription fees or the microtransactions or the loot boxes. They're meant to hook you, keep you trapped, and milk your wallet for as long as they can keep you in playing the game. And so maybe I'm a little cynical about games these days. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's just sort of like I feel like I think I could probably come up with a fun storyline, but I don't know if it's the style that other people, other gamers out there would play. I think our paths have diverged too much. I am definitely a story-based, world-building, character development role player through and through. And I think a lot of people out there are more free-for-all combat, player versus player style gamers now. I guess that's okay. It just means that our worlds don't cross very much. And we're at an hour and 15. I've sort of rambled about some of that. I will touch base again tomorrow and maybe have updates on projects that I'm working on. I know I have to start planning for what I'm going to do on April 1st because we've got like 4 days left, I think. 1, 2, 3. We might only have 3 days left. Time might be slipping past me faster than I think it is. All right. Good night. All right. Hopefully it works out. Oh.